Hello and welcome to the SurveYOUR Podcast with James Baker and John Lever. Two chartered surveyors embarking upon a social media journey, locked in a virtual room with nothing better to do than to discuss everything surveying. And some things not. So, hello, welcome to the next episode of the SurveYOUR Podcast. I get to intro it once for this time round, and I'm going to hand over to James before we do anything else because he's had some feedback.
I have, yes. Roles reversed here, John, which is a bit strange. But
I think I'm better at it.
Yeah, so yeah, of course. Mark Rashid, who's actually an APC candidate that I'm helping at the moment, and he sent me a message and said, I've listened to one of your podcasts, by the way, very good. You both come across well. So thanks for listening, Mark. Hopefully you'll listen to some more and find it useful. But always good to get feedback. Please, will more people give us some feedback?
Yeah, it'd be really nice. Go on, as always, go to SurvePod, SurvePod.com, and it'll take you to our webpage, and there's a form on there you can feedback on. I have to say, James, I didn't look before this week. I looked last week and there wasn't anything, but I haven't looked this week, so I will check it. But it's nice that, Mark, thanks again for that. Yeah, that was good. Excellent. Right, so today it's a little bit different because we've given Sam Nicholson, who's with us today, a bit of a hard time over the last few podcasts. I think we've had him in and berated him a few times. So we decided that we would turn tables and have another go at him. No, give Sam the opportunity to ask us some questions, things that would interest Sam about James and John. So on that note, I'm going to hand over to you, Sam. So this is your show, mate. You better make sure this is a good episode.
Yeah, don't ruin it, Sam.
Yeah.
Well, if you let me get a word in edgeways, you can't let go of the reins, can you? Don't worry, I'm not going to ruin it. It's in safe hands. I think you're maybe a little bit harsh on yourselves that you've berated me and been a bit heavy because, as I mentioned on a few of the other episodes, I've kind of come away from the episodes with a bit of an ego on some of them. But anyway, we digress. So I'm going to jump into a few questions. Some of them follow on from previous podcasts. Some of them are going to be kind of outside of your professional capacity in terms of what you do inside and out. So we'll jump straight into the first question. So I think it was back in the very, very first episode, you looked at who you are, but outside of your professional life, as I alluded to, can you give us a bit of an insight into what your life was like before COVID? Let's think about before COVID. In terms of any interests, hobbies, any musical interests, that sort of thing, so we can have a bit of an understanding of you. Who wants to go first on that one?
Go on, John.
Shall I go first? Okay. Yeah. So hobbies and stuff outside. Well, I have a family, so I've got two teenage kids, so they take up quite a lot of time. So there's an element of dad taxi in there. I wouldn't say it's a hobby, but yeah, I don't mind. But generally, I'm a cinema kid. I absolutely love cinema. And I'm gutted that we can't go to the cinema and haven't been able to go. I had one of these, was it UCI that you had a membership card? So you just rock up at any old film you want. Absolutely brilliant. And given that the last 20 years of running Deliver, 19 of them until last year were traveling around the country, I would always make sure there was a hotel and a restaurant next to the cinema I wanted to go to. So I did that quite a bit. I do like my IT and my tech and various toys. I might have mentioned the fact I'm building an office in the garden. That's got a space for a new 3D printer. So I decided to venture into the world of printing rubbish and junk that you'll never use and it'll end up in a drawer somewhere. But it's
John's gonna print the perfect APC candidate in 3D.
That's a good idea, isn't it? Yeah, and it's gonna be about yay high, yeah, sort of like 2 or 3 meters high. And the other passion I have is running around a field of shooting people. So I don't play paintball, I play airsoft. So given a chap of portly stature that I am, to think of me chunkering around a building or around a forest shooting people is kind of probably not something you'd have expected. But I have a very good sniper rifle, so I don't have to run too fast. That's what
To be fair, John, you've got quite a good array of weapons. I've seen the boot of your car before and was quite horrified at the number of guns you had in it.
Thankfully, though, I can just report at this point, seeing as there's a public podcast, that all the guns are toys. So none of them can actually shoot real bullets. They're only 6mm plastic BBs. So there we go.
Good caveat.
So that's a bit of fun. That keeps the stress and the strain and the pressure sort of under control. Vent my rage on other people.
So from the airsoft kind of side of things, did you ever consider? Did that kind of ever have a thought of armed forces to do with the guns or anything like that?
Well, you see, my father was in the RAF. He wasn't a pilot. He was sort of more ground support, as it were. And I'm half Swiss, so there was a chance that I could have been enrolled on the Swiss Army for national service. But none of these things happened. And I think if I had my time again, I'd quite like to be, I'd like to try at least a police dog handler. So something in the police, maybe. So there was a kind of probably a bit of a closet madman in there somewhere, but the airsoft stuff just came about 6 years ago, and it's absolutely cracking. I actually play with a team. There's a team of 6 of us, and currently if you need us to breach a room for you, we'll come and do it.
Sounds good. Thanks, John. All right, James, do you want to give us an insight?
Yeah, so as John, I've got a family, so I've got my wife and then a little boy. He's just about coming up to 18 months, actually. And I can officially now announce that we are also having a second.
That's new news. Congratulations.
Exciting.
So we are having a second, so can't wait for those sleepless nights again.
Excellent. Well done.
So I will be extremely busy probably with looking after George will be 2. Because we're expecting in September. So George was born in September as well, ironically. So we'll have 2 birthdays in September. My wife's also born in September. So 3 birthdays in September makes my life really, really easy. Just means I'm going to spend a lot of money that month. But, hey, nothing unusual there really when you've got a wife. So
you're a braver man.
Very brave man. I would never, just for the record, I would never say anything like that. Ever.
She knows me well enough. And then outside of the work, outside of the family, I should mention we've got a dog and a cat as well, so there'll be a little bit of dog walking and things like that involved. I go, probably my biggest passion outside of work is football. So always was a keen football player when I was younger. Big Derby fan, season ticket holder. Sadly, we haven't been very good for a long time, but when I was younger, we were a much better side. But the glory days were before I was born, unfortunately. But, true fan, still follow. And Wayne Rooney is our manager. So, a legend of the game is at my football club. So I can't complain too much. But, so football, I can normally be found on weekends watching football, going and watching, obviously, when we're allowed to before COVID. Would often be down Pride Park on a Saturday afternoon, beer in hand, pie. Absolutely loving life. My idea of heaven, except for when we lose, but actually at home is not too bad over the years. And then other than that, big music fan. So spent many years throughout my 20s and my 30s attending different music festivals. Glastonbury, been there a few times. V Festival, Tina Park, Isle of Wight, loads of different festivals, smaller ones as well. So love live music. And can't wait to get back to the days of being able to actually go and watch and listen to live music. Can't play anything myself. Can't sing completely. I don't think I'm tone deaf because I can hear a tune, but I just cannot sing. And I've never learned to play an instrument. I do own a guitar, but I can't play. It just looks nice.
Everyone owns a guitar.
Yeah.
I own a 12-string. I own a 12-string Yamaha guitar, and I can just about squeeze out a chord.
So and then actively wise, I guess, as I kind of hit my 30s, started to probably not be in the shape I once was because I probably stopped playing football in my early 30s. I took up running and used to ran half marathons, done the Great North Run a couple of times. Still the favourite one I've ever done. So, and still my PB for a half marathon is at the Great North Run.
It must be the people as opposed to the place.
No, without question, I think it is the people because the crowds at the sides of the road and stuff just giving you such encouragement. It's such a great experience. I think watching's probably fun, but to run it, with lots of people cheering on was just such a great experience. I hope to do it again one day. Though I'm the wrong side of 40 now, so I'm probably past my PBs and probably end up getting injured or something. But I'd like to do it again. I kind of stopped running a few years back when I got a back injury, which meant that I couldn't run. It was a ligament damage where the pelvis and the spine join, basically. And so I took up cycling. So became a middle-aged lycra cyclist.
Is it a mammal, isn't it? Middle-aged
mammal, probably.
Middle-aged man in lycra.
Not something that's a really good look, if I'm honest. But as long as you're sitting on your bike and you're cycling along and nobody can see you, you're all right. Put a pair of big shades on, helmet on, jobs are good and nobody can really see you. So and then I probably haven't really done as much. I started cycling again during lockdown, actually, lockdown 1 last year. I'd not been out on my bike for such a long time. I bought one of these turbo trainers and invested in a subscription with Zwift. And so did like online cycling. Loved it, absolutely loved it. It kind of like, I think when I was younger, I was always into computer games, video games and stuff. Loved them. And I think it kind of brought that back out in me. It was like, oh, this is great fun. I'm exercising, but I'm also playing a game. And
it's quite a unique thing, isn't it? It's a bit like Mario Kart, that you cycle on your bike because you get power. You don't get bananas to throw at anyone, but you get power ups and lightweights and this and that.
Yeah, I think it'd be better if you could throw stuff at people.
I think I'll just play Mario Kart.
You can put your elbow out, but you can't punch anyone.
True. But so I think that's pretty much me, really. That's kind of what I do.
So you talked about the music earlier on then, James. So what radio station do you listen to when you're in your office? What radio station do you have on?
I don't.
You don't? Silence.
Well, no. It varies. So, but I don't listen to radio really. I'll listen to podcasts because podcasts are great, especially ours. But I also listen to music that I like and know, and bands and stuff that I've followed and listened to through the years, and I'll listen to that sometimes. And then other times I will just sit in silence because I need to concentrate on what I'm doing and I can't have a distraction. So it depends what work I'm doing. But I never listen to the radio these days, really. If I listen to the radio, and my wife has a name for this, which I won't say on here because we try not to swear. Talk Sport. I listen to Talk Sport. So I just enjoy it.
That sounds gripping.
Yeah.
Yeah, the football's not the top of my list, so it's not my station of choice, but I can understand it.
Sounds really exciting. I've got an Alexa actually, which I shout at from time to time.
Yeah,
music, which is quite nice. I'm looking forward to having that properly installed. I don't listen to the radio much. I listen to podcasts. Is where I'm at.
Yep. We've got I've got a streaming service I use. I sign up to Apple Music and. There's loads. I'll listen to all sorts. I'm always interested in trying to find new music and listen to new music. Interestingly, I think that's probably one of the downsides why I'm not listening to the radio. I don't necessarily always hear new music, and because I'm listening to music that I know and love and stuff. So the last time I kind of went through a phase where I actually I had a tattoo last year, and I sat in the chair. And he was like talking to me about music and stuff. And then he started introducing me to all of this great music. And we were just like listening to all sorts of stuff. So that was great because then I discovered all manner of different types of music and things that was, something new that I could start listening to. And some of it was really good, just really good background music, stuff. But yeah, music, I love music. Absolutely love it.
Mm. You wait till the kids grow up, mate. You'll have to start getting into their playlists because that's what happens with me. We've got Apple Music, but it's kind of like, I don't know if your car allows you to do it, but my kids can connect their phones to the car. And whenever you go out in the car, it's like, oh, I could connect my phone. It's like, okay, what rubbish are you going to play today? Some of it's quite good, actually. I do, but I've never really been a music. I couldn't name any of them for you, but I just kind of, I'm happy to tap my foot along to it. But there we go. Yeah. Interesting.
Okay. Good to know. Thanks for the insight. So kind of moving away from your background, the next question is thinking about predictions for the future. I know we've mentioned kind of short-term predictions in terms of 1, 2, 3, up to about 5 years, but where do you think the industry as a whole is going to be in about 20 years' time? What's your predictions in terms of the things that will have changed?
Well, I think there's going to be a big hole in there because both James and I, our careers will probably be done by then, won't they, mate?
Yes, true.
There'll still be a Surveyor podcast, though.
I was going to say, even the podcast will still be going.
Podcast will be on episode 3,400.
we'll have one listener.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's an interesting one. I mean, it depends on the type of surveyor, because you guys are building surveyors. Well, someone has to be, but quantity surveying, is that going to be the same? Quantity surveying, there's computers can do a lot of quantity surveying. I think. Do
you not think quantity surveying's changed? I mean, even in my, time in the industry, just over 20 years I've been doing it now, and even when I start my degree, I think quantity surveying's changed quite a bit.
Oh, it has. Yeah, it's changed massively, and I think the quantity surveyor of the future isn't everyone's surveying of the future. I think the quantity surveyor of the future is going to be someone who is analyzing big data and applying experience to those sort of things. I mean, the everyday measuring and that sort of thing. Even on-site progress, you can set up webcams now that could recognize what's in a picture. I mean, I don't know if you guys have done it. Have you ever searched on your, I'm assuming you have Apple phones, why wouldn't you? Have you ever searched on your Apple phone pictures and said, find me every picture in my phone of dogs, and it will go and find you a picture of all the dogs?
Oh,
I happen to have dogs and cats, so I thought I'll try it with cats as well, and it's the same. And it'll go and recognize and I've got something like 4,000 pictures on my phone because I can't be bothered to download them. It goes and finds. So what stops it going? Well, what's a brick? What's a block? What's a window? What's a, if we haven't already got that. I think augmented reality is a good one as well. I quite like the idea of that. I've been really interested in that for years. The fact you can hold your phone up and go, oh, that piece of kit or that plant, when was it last serviced? What's its life cycle? And all that data being available. I think there's the whole sort of virtual site or virtual information. I think that's probably where we're going to be. I don't otherwise think we're going far unless we can fix the data and the battery power thing, though. I think our next, because we've seen big inroads, haven't we, in technology. I mean, James and I can't remember, James, when you were first working, Sam probably can't remember this, he's so young. When you were first working, did you ever have a mobile phone?
No.
Because I didn't. The first mobile phone
they did exist, but I didn't have a work mobile phone. Yeah. It was your desk phone.
Yeah, I think the first mobile phone I ever had was a Brig, it was a size of, what would I kind of akin it to? Just trying to think something that we'd see. All right, probably if you stacked 5 iPhones, the big iPhones, iPhone Pluses, whatever, on top of each other, it was about that thick, about that big, and that was in 1996 was the first, but you didn't use it because it cost like 50p a second or something to use it or whatever. So it was just the fact that I've got a phone. Do you use it? No. People ring me. I don't ring anybody, So, I think that was a big inroad, and then obviously computers and things like that. But I think we need to see a big jump in technology. But I think surveying will kind of go with that. There's a lot of talk in RICS at the moment about AI, and everyone's panicking about it. I don't think there's any need to panic because, one, it's built by humans and then it will learn, and two, we'll learn with it and we'll just diversify.
Yeah, I also think that we will adapt as surveyors because the whole industry's adapted throughout COVID to still be able to operate and do the job and manage construction sites and continue to build all sorts of stuff that we do as surveyors. So I think we'll just adapt to it. I think give it another 10 years, things might be quite different. Certainly by the time I come to the end of my career, I expect it to be very different. But building surveying is a funny one because I take your point, John, on the the recognition of things that your iPhone can pick out photos and things like that. But maybe the technology will be there, and I just am a bit dismissive of it. But I think there's a human element to the job that we do that will never be able to be replaced by an automated system, a computer or artificial intelligence or whatever. So I think there will always be a place, but we might just become more so data driven and doing the stuff that we would normally do that we know now today.
Yeah, Yeah. I how long did you say short-term memory's going, mate? Was it next 10 years or 15 or 20?
20. I went 20. So
20 years isn't very far. 20 years.
I'm hoping, Sam, I'll be retired, to be honest.
Well, 20 years, what does that put me at? That puts, crap. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, let's hope you'll retire.
I'll probably be dead, mate. In the greater scheme of things.
I mean, in 20 years, I'll be 62, and I'm hoping that I can retire at
60. I'll be 72.
I probably won't be able to. Let's put that out there.
Well, actually, that's a really good point. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to retire. I think I'm always going to be needing to work. A lot of that's down to the fact that probably my generation was probably at the front end of not really having pensions and things, because it was a generation before my parents. They had good pensions and stuff like that, and some of my friends who are in their 60s now have good pensions, and then most of the people in my age range and my sort of peer group and generation, we just don't seem to have anything worth shaking a stick at. Started in jobs where there were pensions and things, but it all got very messy and changed. So I think financially, I think people are going to find they're going to have to keep working longer.
That's definitely something that
as well is maybe I want to work longer or do something anyway, otherwise I get bored.
You'll get bored, John. You've always got to be doing something.
I've got to be tinkering at something. I
mean, to be honest, when I say retire, I don't think I'll fully retire, because I'd get bored. I've got to be doing something that, I had we're digressing slightly, but I had 3 months on furlough last year when I was in full-time employment, and by the end of it I was climbing the walls because I couldn't work. I had so little to do. Obviously, my son and look after my son, which was great, but it was I just was like, I need to do something. I need to, have a purpose.
Have an output. I think that's a good trait to have. That when you don't have an output, you kind of become, I don't think lost is the right word, but maybe not as interesting.
I could quite do with sitting still. I never thought, and I think that's going to change as well. I thought, in the past where your parents would say, you won't find time in the future. And it was kind of like, I'll be fine. Just sitting still for 10 minutes nowadays is an absolute sort of godsend. Brilliant. But one thing I would mention, I think, I don't know about you guys, but time whistles by. And most people are saying to me, where the hell has March or January and February gone? My kids, when I was a child, the years would take years to go by, if that makes sense. I think everyone's going to be moving faster, not necessarily because they want to, but just because of technology. My kids now tell me that, they can't believe how quick the year has gone. And that's because they're kind of slaves to this. They can't be away from their phone. I had a chat with my 13-year-old the other day. I said, put your phone down for a minute, darling. Do you think you could do that? Do you reckon you could do that? Put your phone down. And it's just like she's talking to me while still texting a friend. I said, put your phone down. I don't think you could survive a day without your phone. Yes, I could. All right, give it here. No. So I think there's an element of we're probably moving. Are we moving as fast as we can? Will we move faster? There might be an element of that as well. But I certainly remember younger years when the years would take ages to go by, and at the moment they're just whistling by.
Yeah. I remember the same when I was a kid. Time seemed to last forever. And then as I've got older through work in life and stuff, and then even since I had my own kids, it just disappears in a flash. Time does, and you think, where has that time gone? And
I could be a really grumpy old git now and say, well, piece of advice for everybody: when you have children, take the time, because 20 years down the line or 15 years down the line, I can't believe my kids are already grown up or growing up, So I have had, and that's been one of the nice things about having my own business. I've been able to do things with the family and not be driven by other people.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would argue that the working from home or furlough has allowed, James, an example of that, has allowed them to spend time with the kids that they might not have previously had.
Yeah, well, I mean, same for me. I mean, I've been traveling 19 years. And all of a sudden, I'm here all the time. So I'm not entirely sure they're happy about that. But
I've never spent so much time with my partner.
So sorry, I missed that, Sam. What was that?
I was going to say, I've never spent so much time with my partner before. And look, we've only had the odd argument, but
that's a good sign.
To put up with.
I find arguments go away if you keep away from each other.
Yeah. I live in a 2-bed flat, so there's not that many places to hide. Anyway, we digress. We'll move on to the next question. So, relatively unrelated, what factors or what events within your life have molded you into the person that you are now? Who's going to go first? Who answered? Who was first on the last one?
First on this one. I think everyone's going to want to slash their wrists after I've said
that. James, you go first. You pick us up, and John can take us down.
Yeah.
That's a kind of tough one, really.
Well, can you think of any pivotal moments that I guess stuck in your memory?
Yeah, I look at who I am today as a person and where I've come from and things, and I look at my childhood and stuff. And I'm not saying I had a bad childhood, because I didn't. I've been privileged, really. I've had a good life. But nothing ever came naturally to me. In studying and in school and things, I was all right, but I was never great. And I struggled academically. Exams and stuff I was never good at. I struggled really massively. To the point that when I did my A-levels, I took 3 A-levels and I passed 1. And at that point in time, I applied to do a building surveying degree and was, I made my choice in what I wanted to do career-wise. And that was kind of a real tough moment in some respects, because it I was going to go to university, I was going to get a degree, I was going to go and be a building surveyor, and then I ended up having to, luckily I was offered a place, but I was offered a place in H&D and had to do that for a short period, and then if I performed, they said I could move on to the degree, and so I just knuckled down and worked really hard as I could do, and I did get, after 1 semester, they moved me on to the degree, and then I just had to do some extra modules and stuff to catch up on credits and things like that, so I could graduate when I finished my degree. So that was kind of a moment as well, I guess. I had to graft, I had to really work hard for it. And I think as I grew up, really, I was distinctly average at everything. And I look back on it now and think it was the making of me in some respects. I was nothing special. I never stood out, really. I was just run-of-the-mill James in the middle of the class, never put my hand up, kept myself quiet and stuff. You'd never believe that now, I know. But I just grafted. As a kid, I learned I had to work hard if I wanted anything. Football, I loved football, but I was very average at it, if I was even very average. And I just worked hard. I grafted for it. And I think that stood me in good stead in my career and in my life since, because it's given me a real work ethic, which I think I've learned from some challenging times in my life, if you like. When I was made redundant in the recession following 2008, I didn't sit and feel sorry for myself. Within 3 days of being made, I was working. I was working self-employed at that point, and then eventually found my way back into full-time employment, but to the point that I'm at now. And without those experiences, I wouldn't be running my own business now. I wouldn't have had the achievements that I've had in my career. Some of the roles I've held. So I look back on every experience I've had, whilst some of them might have felt a bit tough at times and might have been a bit difficult, those are the moments that kind of, all the good stuff, I've had loads of good stuff, but I've not really learnt anything from them. I've enjoyed it, but I think I look more fondly now at the more challenging times of my life, not getting the grades I wanted, not getting the, even when I got my degree, I did my degree 3 years and got a 2-2. I was absolutely devastated. But again, I'm not really academic. So, here I am now, Chartered Surveyor Fellow. I've held all sorts of different roles for the RICS that I'm immensely proud of. But these have all sort of shaped me, I guess in my professional world, some of the biggest role that I probably take the most from was not when I joined Matrix, but when I joined the UK Matrix board and then ultimately became the chair of that. The UK chair was probably the proudest moment of my career, aside from becoming a chartered surveyor, and also has been the one that I learned so much from, gave me a lot of confidence personally and professionally. Then being made redundant gave me so much, because being able to find work almost immediately after being made redundant suddenly made me realise actually I might be half decent at my job, because people wanted to employ me, people wanted me to work with them or for them. And that gave me a lot of confidence and probably made me into the very chatty, confident type of individual that you see really in front of you. So yeah, I think there's been all of those things have kind of led me to where I am, and I'd not change anything, to be honest. I think it's been a great journey. It's been, I look forward to what comes in, over the next 20 years or whatever. But it's been good. Nothing too downbeat, I guess, but it's just challenges. We all get challenges in life, and I'm a firm believer of it's how you deal with them. And I've always been the sort of character who looks positively, even in adversity. And I don't think you get anywhere if you just wallow in the negative, energy and negative side of things. You've got to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, get on with it, because you'll probably find that you'll come out of that difficult period much quicker, or you'll benefit from it in a few years' time or whatever, from the experiences you take.
Okay, interesting. So yours seems to revolve around kind of stepping stones or potential barriers put in place through your employment and through your early education. John, does yours differ? Was yours follow a similar?
Everything he said.
Everything he said. Okay, right. Yeah. We'll move on to the next one.
Move on. No, mine's a little bit different. Again, probably parents a generation gap. So my parents were youngish at the end of the World War II. So there was the whole sort of hardship of rationing and elements. My mother is Swiss, grew up in a very rural environment, and that was quite hard. And my father was English, but his father traveled around a lot. He was an architect, I think, which was a bit bizarre because my father was a printer. So he was an architect, and during the war was working for the civil service quite a lot with sort of reconstruction, things like that. So both my parents kind of came from quite hard backgrounds, and I would probably say my mother was a nurse, and my father was a printer. So how on earth I got into surveying was an interesting one, but also I think that hardship really sort of stuck on them. I mean, they're no longer with us. My mother passed away, was it 2012? My father 2001, so quite a while ago now. And I think there was, that hardship really kind of stuck with them both, because my father was very quiet. He wasn't a very outgoing man. He was quite shy. And my mother was quite negative, so and everything. So it wasn't, oh, what you're going to do when you pass. It's what you're going to do if you fail. And so I kind of grew up in a sort of, I think probably my younger years. I can't remember much of my younger years, actually, it has to be said. Much from the age of about 11 backwards. So there's obviously some reason in there. And then more in my teen years, quite frustrated. And then it kind of dawned on me. I came out of school at 16. I didn't do A-levels because I achieved nothing at school, basically. And I don't think that I didn't have the aptitude to do it. I just wasn't driven in the right way. And I think back in the day, my kids now, a little bit dyslexic, bit of ADHD. I think I've got that in there somewhere. And back in the days, you probably were just a difficult child. These sort of things weren't really diagnosed. I'm very creative. I'm always thinking of stuff. I can always come up with ideas. I can always apply myself. But those are things I've taught myself over the years. So it was about early 20s. I probably have one of those epiphany moments where it went, do you know what? You can do whatever the hell you want if you work hard. And it's a bit like James saying, if you put your effort into it, you can achieve what you want. So I came out of school with nothing, went to university. Well, I didn't go to university either. I went to college, local college, and I was there on and off on various courses, OND, HND, surveying diploma. And then I sat the RICS finals. So I was in one of the last few tranches of candidates who sat the finals. So I sat it in 1993 or 94, I think 93. I missed it. I didn't pass 93. I missed it by 2% on aggregate. So that's quite galling. So you had to wait and sit it again the next year. So I sat it twice. That's the only thing since leaving school I've ever had to sit twice, because every time since leaving school, I was really quite well directed by the college. There was a different emphasis on, you weren't this nasty small child, you were a grown-up, and they treated you as such. And so I got merits and distinctions in everything. And then I passed the RSS finals, which equivalent to, I'm told, is equivalent to a 2-1, BSc Hons or whatever, 2-1. But all I have is a pass. You pass your RSS finals. And then sat the APC, and it was kind of probably from that, I was 25. So just before that, kind of this moment of give yourself a break and, be a bit more positive. So because my mother was so negative, I'm so uber positive. Even in the points of adversity, I'm saying, I'll be fine. Let's just crack on, sort of thing, which doesn't always help everyone around me. It's like, for goodness sake, can't you just take responsibility? It's like, I am taking responsibility, but we're moving on. There are people around me who always reminisce or want to look back and, oh, wasn't it a nightmare? It's like, no, that was then. That was yesterday. We've got today and tomorrow to worry about. Let's crack on with that. So I've always been very positive in that way since my early teens. And I often say to candidates, to anyone I'm talking to now, if there was any two or three things I could tell you, one is to be open and transparent and to be nice. And I know it sounds cliched, but that's what I try and do. I can be an idiot from time to time. I've made mistakes, but so what? As long as you can stand up and admit that and go, do you know what? Yeah, I was a bit of a prat. And apologize and move on. You'll find people will think a lot more of you than if you just try and skirt around or try and avoid things or try and do things the wrong way. So I think one of the things I've learned is openness, transparency, try and be as ethical as you can, walk the talk, that what surveying is all about. And I'm with James. I'm as proud today as the day I was 26 years ago when I passed my APC. I never even thought I would achieve it. I'm the only person in my family who has a professional qualification. So, that's been an amazing thing to have achieved, but it was only through absolute hard graft. I'm not an academic. I had to work really hard. So those sort of things have molded me into the person I am now, but I kind of think I haven't really stopped growing, obviously outwards. But, in my either, there's always new things, there's tons of new stuff to learn and tons of new things and people to meet and things to do. And just, I think overall, which I think our podcast in a way adds a certain element of that. I just want to have, enjoy it for what it is, and have fun and try and be a genuinely nice guy. And I know it sounds cliched, but that's what I try and do.
Interesting. So they're both kind of, to kind of drill down into it, they both seem to be that you get to this point where maybe not being hugely confident in your abilities or self-belief, and then you get to this kind of tipping point, and then after that it's downhill. And even though there's a lot of work involved, I'm not disagreeing with that, but then from there it seems to progress from that. I think for me personally, I completely agree with what you said. I've achieved a lot more than I ever thought I would in the last 4 or 5 years, whether that's personally or professionally. And I think it's that epiphany moment of actually, I'm worth what I'm doing. I've got the ability to do X, Y, and Z, and having that epiphany moment, or however you want to describe it.
Yeah, it could be an age thing as well, couldn't it? Because you kind of bounce around in your teens trying to work out who the hell you are. And then you realize that it doesn't really matter. So, you just are who you are. You can't change yourself,
Yeah, I think it's an age and an experience thing. I think you don't even know, you don't realize in those moments what the change will be or what impact they might have on you. You just going about your business day to day. And I think it's only when you can then look back and you think, well, actually, there was probably a big change from that point on. And from your comment there, Sam, I had a point in my life. So after I was made redundant in 2012. And at that point of being made redundant, I then probably did so many different things in my career and just took my career to a completely different place. And prior to that, I'd become a chartered surveyor, but I was probably just plodding along and not really going anywhere. I was in a job that I didn't enjoy. And I was there just because everybody kept saying, because we were in a recession, everybody kept saying, well, you're lucky to have a job.
Yeah, keep your head down.
And your employer would say, you're lucky to have a job. And you'd kind of believe it and you keep your head down and you just do it. And you weren't happy. And so I wouldn't have jumped ship until they then made me redundant. And it was like, yeah, great. Okay, thanks. 5.5 years of service to you. That's the loyalty you get shown. But hey, it's business. These things happen. And I think from that point on, though, it opened my eyes to a whole different world and a whole different, it showed me that I was more than capable and that I was actually half decent at what I do, and I could go and achieve things. And without that, I would never have done anything that I've done in the years that followed, in the last sort of 8-9 years, and which I've probably achieved so much more in my career since that point. And even in my life, I've, done a lot since that point. But I think all of those things happened because of that. That's probably the one pivotal moment in my life.
Yeah. It's interesting, actually, you mentioned about redundancy, because I've been made redundant once. But it was like I started work. I worked for a company for 12 years, was made redundant, then I set up Deliver. So, it was, how old was I when I was made redundant? It would have been early 30s. So yeah, Deliver's 20 years old this year. So yeah, I would have been 32. So I'd worked with this company, surveying practice, for many years. And like you, James, it was just kind of, you went to work, and there was nothing really there that was challenging me. And I think that was probably something I needed. So people said to me in the past, surely working for yourself's a nightmare. Would you do Deliver all again? It's like, hell yeah. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's still, what's it going to be in the future? Who knows? Will we go and do other things, diversify? I don't have to stay in surveying necessarily. I don't know. Who knows what the world will bring us, but always on the lookout for what the next experience will be. And I think that's the thing we do find. We get stuck in work. My parents, again, came from a society, a generation where you had a lifetime job. And it was kind of at the beginning of my career where that was starting to fall apart. Yeah. And people would move around, every 3 or 4 years and stuff like that. And then I stayed in a job for 12 years. So I didn't move. I moved within the business, but not moved out into another company. So yeah, I think, and then Deliver, in the last 20 years, we've changed shape 4 or 5 times. So, if anything, the business I've had 5 businesses, not just the one, as it were. So there's a lot of things. There's always a lot of things that are impacting. And obviously COVID, I mean, gosh, how has that impacted on all of us? It has taken a dent on my over positiveness on occasion, it has to be said. And this sort of the mental health side of things, I'm not saying necessarily that I've suffered too much or anything, but I have noticed that, the lack of interaction, maybe personal, face-to-face, or just meeting friends. And I live in a small village. I go out for walks with a few of my friends quite regularly, and I've had 2 or 3 weeks where we didn't do that, and I noticed the difference. So I think
I could agree with you on that one, John. I live in a small village on the coast. I work in Newcastle, which is a city centre, but not having that social interaction, even though I've got interaction at work and Zoom calls and podcasts and things like that, it still has an effect.
Yeah. I mean, so much so it's it was my birthday on Monday, and I decided to take the day off. And I couldn't take the day off really because I had too much work, but I decided to take the day off. So I went out for a walk with a mate of mine, and we turned that hour walk into 4.5 hours. And it was just like, it was the best day I've had in like weeks. And we ended up in the depth of the countryside, and both of us are relatively unfit. And it was like, worst we could do is order an Uber. So there was always a backup plan with it, but we actually finished it. It's actually about 5 hours in the end. And he was going, I think we've walked about 12 miles. I said, no, mate, we walked about 6. But it was probably, again, it's that interaction, it's the change. It's going to change, are we going to have a better work-life balance because we're going to stop working or not working so hard, or it's an interesting one.
So that kind of moves us on to the next question that we're talking about, work-life balance and things like that. But I'm going to skip along to what's to keep it relatively short. What's your opinion on a large vs small firm? To have a relatively short answer, as opposed to in your 20s, it's better to be at a big firm and then maybe move to a small, or what's your opinions on large v small? My answer to that is always going to be the same. I never want to work for in a large corporate. A lot of my clients are large corporates. I have unfortunately got embroiled in politics within an institution that's quite a large corporate. I never wanted to work for a large corporate because of the internal wranglings and the politics. It annoys me immensely. Quite frankly, I just haven't got the time or the energy for it, but I still have managed to not escape it on all angles. But I would always, small firm, I've never wanted to grow Deliver to this huge, humongous, heaving behemoth. I'm quite happy for us to be, to 3 or 4 of us directly employed, and the rest are consultants that we grow and we shrink as we need to. And I think I've liked that. And that doesn't mean that then, we turn over millions. We don't.
I'm not here for the becoming a sort of a millionaire sort of thing. I'm here to have a nice life, and we have plenty. I have a very nice, a nice house. I don't have a big house. I have a nice house that is all paid for. So, so we have, a really relatively chilled, relaxed. My kids are happy. It's that sort of environment that I've enjoyed, and working for a large corporate with the kind of hand over you 9 till 5 sort of thing, I just couldn't be doing it. I think I probably mentioned before, I'm completely unemployable, because someone would go, could you do this? And I'd look at it and go, yeah, no, I don't want to. So I'd be useless. I'd be out of a job all the time. I'd be unemployable, I'm sure. So small firm for me.
Small firm for John. James, now yourself?
So I've worked in both. I've worked for big multinationals, and I've worked for small firms, and obviously I've now got my own small firm. I think there's good and bad points about both, and I think it's a personal thing. I'm with John. I've probably enjoyed my time in smaller firms more than I have in big corporates, because you're not just a number that's there to earn money. There's a person behind the surveyor, almost, if you like. Not the case in all, but I think smaller firms, you different stages of your career, different things might suit, but I think it just comes down ultimately to people, and it's just what you want from life and what you get out of it and stuff. But for me, small firm.
Okay, so to add my opinion into it, I work for a small firm in surveying, but I've come from a large corporate firm in my previous employment, working for Maersk, the Danish shipping company. And I think the points you mentioned there, in terms of not just being a cog in a big watch that's got many cogs, and being managed by somebody that's face to face and that says please and thank you, makes a big difference. Definitely makes a big difference.
Yeah, huge difference. It does.
Okay.
I think the just one last point on that, Sam. I think the other thing is, in a small business, you can probably see your impact more than you can on a large business. You not really see what impact you could make on it, and you can probably be able to make a bigger impact on a small firm as well. So
to check more into that, I agree, because I think in a large corporate as well, you get the hangers-on that disappear and can just trip around while you're working your socks off.
Yes.
And I think that can start to build as well, and you just get
great
and grumbly. You're holding it all together, and these other people just kind of sort of swanning along, as it were, on the bow wave. So I think there's an element of that. In a small firm, you can't hide. You've all got to work together, or it's not going to happen. So
yeah. Okay, interesting. So the next question then, totally unrelated, but now that you're 20, 30 years in the industry, and we've got either a new generation coming in, do you see a big difference between the generation that you sit in terms of, we've talked about our background earlier on in the podcast, and the fresher faces that are coming out of university within the last, say, 5 years? Do you notice a big difference between the generation of surveyors that are coming into the industry now?
Do you want to go first on that one, James?
Yeah, I can do. I always struggle with this, because I think
those youngsters.
Yeah, because you know what, we've all been there, and I think when you're there yourself, you don't really see yourself as being anything that. Whereas when you've got the years behind you, the experience, you can look at them differently. I mean, one thing I'd probably say is, during my career, and this is probably a reflection of industry changing and things, but what surprises me is, having had graduates and things come into teams that I've managed, building surveying wise, what they're being taught at university was very different to what I learned at university. When I started out in my career and things, when I did my degree, it was, CAD was heavily taught. It was this is what you're going to need to do and stuff. And then I spent many years in my early career doing CAD drawings and designs and things. I still do. But I've since had, probably over the last, even stretching back maybe, up to 15 years, and I've only been doing this for about 21 or so, 21 or something like that, maybe 22. They've never even picked up a mouse to draw something on CAD before, and they've got a degree, and you're like, what? surely you need to learn the fundamental as a building surveyor. For me, you need to learn. But I think that is a slight reflection, because I've worked in organisations and seen graduates and things. Sorry, not graduates. Just seen the role change a little bit, and it just depends on where you work. I think, obviously I know you probably do a lot of design work as well, Sam, and I'll see APC candidates coming through who still do it, building surveying candidates, but there are those who kind of take a slightly different path and probably don't do an awful lot of that these days, or there seems to be less of it, which does surprise me a little bit, because building surveying candidates, for example, still have design and spec to level 3. Well, if you're not doing your own designs and specifications, then you're going to be struggling to get to level 3 at that. So I think there's been a change there. I don't want to sound like everybody else sounds, but I do find, and maybe it's just because I've grafted hard and working hard at times, and you see there is a little bit of, from some of the, in more recent years, grads and stuff who almost want to be spoon-fed and it's almost like you owe them something, and that you're lucky for them to be working for you.
Yeah, like an entitlement.
A little bit of entitlement. And I don't know whether that's quite general, but I've found that a little bit. And that's not to say that everybody's like that, because they're not. And that might just be me being older, a bit older and grumpy. But there is an element of that. And you think, come on, you need to put a bit more effort in here. And I don't know whether that's society changing or what, but there's been changes, but I don't think they're vast. And I think it just depends on, I think it still comes down to individuals. I think it's unfair to, group everybody together, but I think that's probably my overview, really. Don't know whether John's got anything different.
Well, interestingly, I mean, last 20 years, I've spent at the pointy end of young candidates and trainees coming through the industry. So I've been able to watch it develop over the years. I have to say, I could sit here and go, those flipping millennials, bar humbug, grumbly. I think you're right, James. There's an element of people expected to be spoon-fed. Tell the truth, back in 1993, when I graduated, and 1990, there was people wanting to be spoon-fed then as well. So I don't think humans have really changed. I don't think we really evolve, and it's only been 20 years or so, or 30 years. So that's no time to evolve or change. I think you're right to a certain extent. There seems to be this right of entitlement, or I'm a manager, and everyone's going, but you don't know the basics. But I came out of college into my first surveying job, and one of the surveyors there said, well, that's the worst piece of taking off I've ever seen anyone do. He said, weren't you taught this at college? And I turned around and said, well, no, not really. That's why I'm here. So rather than giving me grief, why don't you show me how to do it properly? So there was always those sort of elements of expectation again as well in the industry. Now I do feel that industry needs to play a closer part with universities and tell the universities really what they need, rather than just be dictated to. And I think there's an element of where, and that's been missing for years, there's, for some reason, industry and universities just don't seem to talk as well as they could, certainly not in our world, I think. And we get a lot of people coming out of it, like say, thinking they're going to be managers. What they don't realize is you've got to make the tea and do the photocopying and comp out the calculations for a few years before anyone even says that you're going anywhere with that.
I do, sorry to interrupt there, John, but you're right. And I think some of that comes down to, I remember my time at university, and they tell you at university, you're going to earn all this money, you're going to be doing this, you're going to be doing that. And I think sometimes the problem comes from the universities themselves. They set the wrong level of expectations to these youngsters, and then they come into industry thinking that that's what it's going to be like, and it really isn't. And I think that's the fundamental problem, which I don't think has changed in the last 20, 30 years.
Not at all. Now we've got the apprenticeship process and program ongoing at the moment. It's been around 3-4 years. We're just starting to see the candidates coming through to the APC now. They don't seem to be any better prepared, and they're supposed to be on an apprenticeship program which prepares them for the APC. So it's down to the individual. You'll find, and certainly, I mean, we're coaching hundreds of candidates, and we'll find some. And James, you're working on some of these with us, and you'll find some that are absolute grafters, and they're absolutely absorbing, the sponges. They want you to tell them everything. They want to get involved. They want to do it, and you got the others going, well, why can't you just do it for me? And it's kind of like, well, that's no different. People I grew up with. I came out of, if I look at my college days, there were 20 or 25 of us on the course, I came out of that course, and within 4 years, 3 of us had actually progressed to chartership. The rest were meant to, none of them. And to this day, some of them have never done it, you know? So, you know, it's, I don't think it's changed. I just think, I wish we would had people who came out with the more core skills, that then you wouldn't have to start a job and then start to be trained from therein. You know, university in my mind at the moment is giving, and this could be a generalization and you could shoot me down for it, but it just seems to be a tick in the aptitude box, but will actually teach you how to do it properly once you get into work. And that's where I think the things like apprenticeships and part-time degrees are much better than full-time, because you're actually out there grafting, getting your hands dirty and applying what you're learning. And I think that's why I think apprenticeships are probably going to be, you know, one of the good things that we'll see in the industry. So it's interesting. It's interesting. I just, yeah, I think human beings are human beings, and we can sit there and be grumpy old gits. I mean, I look at my kids, you know, and just think the life you have now, you know, if only you realize we only had 4 channels on television and didn't have mobile phones.
That's the thing though, isn't it?
And we had to go up the stairs and talk to our boyfriends and girlfriends on a dial phone for everyone else to listen into, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
and our parents used to probably say exactly the same thing about us. Yeah. It's a generational thing. Exactly. Times change, technology changes, things change. So yeah, I think you put it very well, John.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing though, the thing is that I feel sorry for my kids is that when I was their age, well, gosh, probably younger, 10, 11, 12, probably about 10, 11, 12. I went out at dawn, and as long as I was home before the street lights came on, I had that freedom to go out and about around the local area, the park and all this sort of stuff. My kids now, it's like, where the hell are they, you know? And I think society's changed for the worst in that way. And that's me being a grumpy old git.
It's a different environment, a different society, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, we digress ever so slightly. So I've got 2 questions to finish, and they should be relatively short. The first one is, if you were going out and COVID wasn't an issue, what sort of things would you find in your pocket? So you're going out to do a day's work. I know it's a very open-ended question, but what sort of thing would you find in your pocket or pockets? John, you go first.
Wow. Oh, you see, no, this is a bit of a problem for me, because this is where my work-life balance and my kind of workaholicism sort of kicks in. So there's, you know, if I'm out where I was out and about, it would be traveling all over the place, trying to get places, and I'd have a phone in my pocket and a pen, and that's pretty much it. And the rest of it is working all the time. And maybe a small bag of Haribo.
Which flavor? Which one?
Oh, it has to be the one with the jelly babies in, which is the Super Mix.
Super Mix, the red packet of it. I know it well.
In fact, I will admit to a pack of Haribo Super Mix in my room, but that's only because my daughter ate all the jelly babies and gave me all the crappy ones. So that's why they're still in there, and I haven't eaten them. So yeah, so it'd be Haribo Super Mix, but the little ones, because that was, you see, that's been one of the fun traits of our business. When we go out and about places, we used to have a sweetie tin or a pack of Haribo, and that was the difference that we brought. You know, a bit of fun, bit of excitement, and even grown-ups like it, you know, sort of thing. So that's I guess that's what it would be. The more, yeah, the more social, I think, would be nice to do. But I don't really have much in my pockets. It's a wallet and a pen and a phone, and that's it pretty much.
James, anything to add?
Not really. I mean, I guess I'll always have a car key probably. You know, my mobile phone will always be with me. And yeah, pen or a pencil or something, you know, if I'm out and about working. If I'm not working, then I wouldn't. I think the only thing worth noting really, change that I personally have had since COVID happened. So I'd never leave the house without a wallet, ever. Now I leave the house
all the time. Yeah.
Now I always leave the house without a wallet. I never carry cards because I've got them on my phone. I've got Apple Pay. I've got an Apple Watch. I use them on that.
And you're not going to go out and buy anything of any great shakes nowadays.
No.
You know,
so I never do.
It's the odd trip to McDonald's if you can manage to wangle that one, and that's on Apple Pay easily on your phone, isn't it? So.
Which is great, you know, because I've now got a massive wallet with a load of stuff in it that I'm never going to use anyway. Just carrying it around for the sake of taking it out for a trip. So it's a bonus that I now don't. I'm not weighed down with a massive wallet. Yeah. So it truly does have moths in it these days, but Yeah, that's it. I mean, I don't carry a lot of stuff. When I'm working and stuff, I'll always take a bag with me, because I've got all my survey equipment and things in it, so that I can,
Is it like a little doctor's bag that you open up and then?
No, it's a
like Mary Poppins bag. You get the ladders out.
It's like a TARDIS bag.
It's just a
bag. It's a man handbag.
It's a
man bag.
It's a handbag.
It's like a fancy laptop bag.
No, mate, it's a handbag.
But I always use that for work because I'll put all my damp meter, me disto, everything in it that I need, my tape measure and all sorts of stuff that I need when I'm going out and about. When I'm doing surveys and stuff, I'll have a boot full of, I'll have my ladders, I'll have pocket items. So I guess, nothing really exciting, to be honest.
But it's an interesting point you said about cash. I used to have, probably keep 50 to 100 quid's worth of cash in my wallet all the time, and cards and everything. Yeah, you're right.
I used to have a pocket full of change.
Yeah.
Always had a pocket full of You'd hear me coming before you saw me.
I've been to a shop. I went to a shop a few weeks ago, and they would only. It was a takeaway, Chinese takeaway, and I haven't ventured out far, and they only take cash. And it was like 9 or 18 quid. And I thought, I don't want the £2 change. I don't want the money back. Someone else has touched it. You can have mine, but I don't want it back. So that it's interesting. I think you're right. The whole change. I've got a pot on my window ledge here full of change. Hasn't gone down in a year, sort of thing. But that was it. That was a weird thing. One thing, actually, just to throw in, one thing that we started doing as a family was not spending £2 coins. The only problem is now, I've got 650 quid in the cupboard in £2 coins, and I can't do anything with it. So, because we've got to go to a bank to exchange it. I mean, why the hell did we do that? But it's a good way of saving quite a lot of money very quickly. But yeah, so every time I had change, the £2 coin went into a pot. But we're now suffering for that as cash that we can't use. So I'm sure we could if we wanted to, but just haven't really kind of gone and done that. So. Interesting. We probably didn't answer the question, but there we go.
No, we did, but we dog-legged off on talking about.
As always,
you can't shut us up, Sam.
No, I'm trying my best to herd us through where we need to be. We're going to finish on this question, and it's a very short one. So
that's what I said last time.
I like the fact that you keep saying short, Sam. You're giving us a hint.
Do you think
do not give us a long answer? You spent way too long.
Come on, lads. I want a 5-minute answer. Do you think that's what he means by short?
All right, so I'm going to ask a question.
Okay.
The length is to be determined depending on the answer. Are either of you ever going to come to any of our APC study groups?
Oh, now that's a very good question. You embarrass me every single time when you ask that, because I'm I'll turn up, and then I either forget and I'll put that down to a grey moment, or I'm just absolutely stacked. But I would love to, because Clive, didn't he? One of our other guys.
Yeah, Clive came this Tuesday.
Did you invite him, or did he just rock up? Because he hasn't got any friends.
No, I did invite him. Yeah,
you invited him. Oh, bless you. Bless you. Was it kind of out there in the sort of help the aged, that sort of thing? No.
Well, I didn't have. You put a face to people's voice, but I'd never met him. I'd never had a Zoom call with him at all. So I was unaware of his age or anything.
Oh, good recovery. We'll find out if Clive listens to these podcasts.
Yeah.
So, and he's got to listen all the way.
Find out if he listens now. Yeah.
At the very end.
So he and I always have that banter going on. So don't worry. Oh no, that was great that Clive turned up. Yeah, and I'd love to. And I think what we need to do, Sam, is you need to talk to my people, and my people need to talk to your people in the diary. Rest assured, if you tell Karen in my office, it will appear in my diary, and she'll hassle me until I turn up. So,
okay.
So that's a good way of doing it. So yeah, if you email Karen at deliver.com, and say John's told me that I've got to ask you to make sure he turns up, I'll probably turn up.
Okay. And James, have you got any excuses? Or
no, not really. Well, yes, I have. I've got loads of excuses, but at least it's only been
relatively newborn, another one on the way.
At least it's only been a couple of months that I said I would, and I haven't turned up.
Baby on the way, mate. He's got to prep for that.
My intention is that my intention is to turn up at some point. So unfortunately, business has been very busy, and of the last probably 6 weeks, and I haven't had the time to stop working. So I will turn up. My forecast at the moment is very busy. In April, I'm hoping that I will have a little bit of time to come and to take part in
whatever. What, before Sam's chartered though, you mean? Or are you going? Actually, that's a question for you,
Yes,
Sam.
April.
Are you going to keep...
Sam won't be chartered in April.
Well, no, but yes, I'm talking before. You said April. I missed that. I wasn't paying any attention. Sorry, James. Sam, are you going to keep doing this group after you? Because you said there's about 50 odd, isn't there?
We've got a WhatsApp group that we talk of more than just APC. People ask guidance about what a project they're doing or dilapidation. So it's proven to be a benefit outside of APC. And regularly have maybe 10 or 15 on the Tuesday session, which is mandatory competency orientated, and maybe about 6 to 8 on the Thursday, which is building surveying specific technical.
Well, that's natural, isn't it? It's so much less interesting.
No, it's just
couldn't resist.
It's reserved for a special few.
Walked me into that one. No. You just walked me in and said, "Go for it, John." But yeah, no. The other thing I was going to say, so you're doing your APC till the autumn.
Yep.
When naturally you're going to pass, because you are working very hard for this. I'll be very disappointed if you don't pass.
Set me up for a big fall there.
Absolutely. We'll be ringing you up every hour God sends, going, "Why the hell didn't you pass?" You will pass. You'll be fine. Because you're working very hard for it. Are you going to carry it on after that then? What's your thoughts?
So my intentions as I sit here today is to carry it on and to help other people through the journey and make it a bit easier, because I was a bit clueless to start off with.
Yeah.
And the only thing that might supersede that is if I move on to something else, which then takes over my time, that maybe I'll have to hand it on to somebody else or manage it a bit more remotely and let somebody take the lead. But at the moment, my plans are to continue it because I can see the benefit of it.
Yeah, good, very noble. I mean, it's great that you've set it up over all this. So we've been doing. How long have you been involved on the APC roadshows that we've been doing? About halfway through, was it? When did you get involved with us?
No, I think I was quite early on.
But right at the beginning, back in March.
I think I was about week 4 or week 5.
Oh, okay, excellent. So in all that time, there was only one other person who had a group who then passed, and that group fizzled out, I think. So, yeah, I mean, it's, all respect to you, mate. You've kept it going. And it's something that James and I have seen with probably through RSS Matrix and things. The group is only as good as the people who run it.
Oh, 100%.
And that is a dead cert. There's so many things I've got involved in that I've sat there and gone, if I don't do something, nothing's ever going to happen. So I've always ended up kind of running it or doing it or keeping on top of it, which is probably why I'm a bit of a control freak.
I think that's probably why.
I don't think that's why you're a control freak, John. I just think you are. Which is then why you do that. Which is why you do those things.
Accept that with open arms. Yeah, I think there's far too much OCD and everything sloshing around in there to let anyone else do it properly. And I'm sure other people could do it perfectly well. But yes, there we are. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
But no, I think it's great. I think it's great that you've done that. And yes, I would love to attend.
Yes. So if anybody listening.
Yeah, you've got us now recorded. Both of us saying
later on, but
that was it.
I was just about to plug.
That was the only one I managed to trip you up on to get that recorded, and then
we'll edit it out.
Yeah,
we'll edit it out.
Sam.
So go on, tell everyone about it though, because it's important.
So if anybody's listening, I run
anybody's
along
listening.
with
what you like, if to the
if anybody
listening.
If anybody's listening,
let me finish. You don't give me the opportunity to finish and add any words on. It's all context.
Start again.
So if anybody listening is interested in joining an APC study group, we meet at least twice a week to discuss mandatory and technical competencies. And the easiest way that's proven to be beneficial is if you find me on LinkedIn under Sam Nicholson. There'll be a big smiley picture of me that gets many jokes aimed at directly to me. But you can find me on LinkedIn, and then we can have a quick chat in terms of joining the WhatsApp group and joining the weekly sessions. So it's always there. It's open to everyone, regardless of pathway.
No, that's fantastic, and quite a commitment. I was thinking back to my APC days. Would I have committed to something twice a week? It's quite interesting. So yeah, I think it's good. I think it's good, and as long as it's what are you finding beneficial from that group?
And initially, it was having an awareness of what other people are reading or what guidance notes or how they're approaching their studies. But as time's progressed and that just becomes the norm, it's more the Q&A that people have either had from their mock interviews or how they would word a question or what they're thinking. Or so I could turn up with my summary of experience and people can prep questions on that. So it's fair enough, it's not by an assessor, but it's other people who are in the industry who might be able to think of a question that you hadn't even thought of.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. The other thing I was thinking of as well, do you use the same link each week, or do you have a different link?
Use the same link each week.
Use the same link each week. Okay, well, yeah, why don't you email James and me that link, and we can put it in our diary.
Sam has already emailed me that link.
I don't believe he has emailed me, but if he has and I've lost it and I've missed it, then I was going to say, send me the link and I'll stick it in my diary that's happening at that time every week. And if I'm around, I'll just click the link.
Yeah, I can definitely do
That's
that.
another way of doing it.
I'll resend it to make sure that it's at the top of the inbox. I might have got lost.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll post it. We can post it on SurvePod.com as well. And by the way, actually, on that note, we still need to sort out the RNLI charity link. We haven't done that yet. So we need to. That hasn't forgotten. That's been on my radar, and it's not on the top of my to-do list. It has to be said, but it is in the to-do list still.
Come on, John.
We must do that. Yeah, sorry. Running a business and all that, and all the things I just berated you for, James. Cool. Okay, was that your last question?
That was my last question.
I think a round of applause for Sam. I think you did very well.
Very good, Sam. Very good.
Thank you very much.
Very good. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. That was quite interesting, having a different perspective on the questions, because obviously James and me have got plenty to talk about, but it's nice to hear someone else's sort of questions.
Yeah, most people don't want to hear what me and John have got to talk about, but we like listening to ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So no, that's cool. So James, actually, shall we let Sam bring this to a close? Do you think you can do it properly, Sam?
Can you do it properly?
I can't remember the specifics of the tagline.
Dare you? You can't come on a podcast with us and not know that you should say, and
you must have listened to all of the podcasts.
I was going to say, don't forget, wash your face, wash your hands, and
don't lick any strangers.
Don't lick any strangers. Spot on. Excellent. Well done, mate. Cheers. Thanks ever so much. Absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm sure, Sam, we need to get you along for some of these other general stuff that we're doing, because we're obviously all kicking off each other quite nicely. So thank you again for being involved. And James, as always, your beard's looking great, mate. And we'll look forward to catching everyone on the next podcast. So
thanks, everyone. Thanks, Sam.
Yes, SurvePod.com. Don't forget to leave your feedback, and obviously all our episodes will be published on there, and all other very exciting podcasting providers. So see you guys soon. Cheers. Take care.
Bye.
Hello there, and thank you for joining us for our latest episode of the SurveYOUR Podcast. We hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as we enjoyed making it. Don't forget to subscribe at all your favourite podcast providers: Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and so on. Also on Twitter and Instagram at SurvePod, that's SurvePod. You can also get us on YouTube. Click the subscribe button, and don't forget to click the little bell. It tells you when we post our latest content, and on our webpage, SurvePod.com. Don't forget to leave us your reviews, comments, suggestions, and of course any questions. And finally, if you want to come along, join us at a future episode of the SurveYOUR Podcast, send us an email to survepod@gmail.com. If you like what you see and hear, tell your friends. Let's put surveying on the map. Stay safe, wash your hands, and don't lick any strangers. Bye-bye for now. The SurveYOUR Podcast is a copyright Deliver and Invise Limited production. We suggest you come up with your own ideas and not copy ours. Thank you. Catch you again soon. Bye-bye.